The entire global smartphone market is in decline, with one exception. The iPhone 17 series is a staggering success.
If you look at it, it's the iPhone 17 family that's driving it. It is amazing. We're seeing double-digit growth in the majority of the markets we track. And we set a new March quarter record for upgraders as well. These numbers are just unheard of.
Yes, it's hard to believe, but after all these years, after countless iPhone models, the iPhone 17 has done the impossible. It is outselling every single previous iPhone model that has come before it, making it Apple's fastest selling, most popular iPhone ever. With one exception: the iPhone Air. Because all you have to do is look at the global top-selling smartphone lists to see that something is wrong. Because while the number 1, number 2, and number 3 spots are taken by the iPhone 17, the iPhone 17 Pro, and the iPhone 17 Pro Max, the 4th iPhone model that Apple launched right alongside the 17 series is missing. Yes, the iPhone Air doesn't even make it to the top 10 spot in global smartphone sales, and a sad fact is that last year's iPhone 16 did make that list. A year-old iPhone is outselling one of Apple's most ambitiously designed iPhones ever. And while I should be surprised, I'm not. Because looking back at my own videos, I remarked just how good of a value the normal iPhone 17 was this year. It gave you most of the Pro-level features at a lower price point, making it Apple's best flagship value, quite possibly ever. On top of that, I really just enjoyed the iPhone 17 Pro this year with its new unibody aluminum design, enhanced camera system, and exceptional battery life. And yes, finally, a fun new color. It is without a doubt the best iPhone that I have ever used. Which is why, even though I planned to use the iPhone Air when it launched, I quickly switched over to using the Pro model. Which may have you curious why, over half a year later, I suddenly stopped using the iPhone 17 Pro and switched to Apple's worst iPhone model. Well, there's two things. First of all, going into this year, I thought I was going to be getting a new iPhone experience. But as I continued to use the iPhone 17 Pro, my experience felt a lot like the iPhone 16 Pro and the iPhone 15 Pro. In fact, in some ways, my experience was degraded as each of these phone models continued to get thicker and thicker than the previous models. The 17 Pro is the thickest flagship iPhone since the iPhone 4S, or the thickest model since the iPhone 5C. 15 years of iPhone evolution to end up with a design that feels older and clunkier. And then one day I got a notification for a weekly screen time report, and it said that I was using my iPhone for an average of 7 hours a day. Yes, despite my intention to use my iPhone less this year, I ended up using it more than ever before. It was around this time when I started talking to my friend Patrick, who recently switched to an iPhone Air as his main phone for similar reasons, with the goal of using his phone less. And it seemed to be working, but would this work for me? Would I actually feel like I was having a different experience with the Air, a new experience? Or would I end up just slapping on a MagSafe battery pack and resuming my old habits? Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to switch back to the iPhone Air is because I wanted a new experience. And I love that we're in this era where we're getting a bunch of new tech, trying new things. And that's how I feel about the new Soundcore Liberty 5 Pro and the Pro Max earbuds, because now I expect my earbuds to do a lot more. Like, I never would have expected a pair of earbuds to apply for the Guinness World Record of call clarity.
Because even in a busy cafe like this, where there's a lot of background noise, there's music playing, people talking,
You can still have a crystal clear audio conversation, and the microphones cancel out all of the background noise. And this call I'm taking right now is literally happening in that same cafe, right on the Liberty 5 Pros, and you cannot hear the background noise. It also powers the industry-leading noise cancellation, so even in a noisy cafe, I can block out the people talking, I can block out the loud cafe music, and I can focus on my phone conversation or listen to my own music. They have a heavier bass than my AirPods Pro 3 and feature just as strong noise cancellation and support features like transparency and adaptive audio. Actually, in terms of features, there's quite a few more on the Liberty 5 Pros, because I'm sure you've noticed both earbuds come with a screen on the case, which is great for checking battery life, and the bigger screen on the Pro Max is great for controlling settings, controlling my music, and customizing my wallpaper on the earbuds case. It feels like using a mini phone. It's really cool. And built right into the case are two really powerful AI features. Because this case is a full recorder with storage, and it has full AI transcription features and summaries in the Soundcore app. And I can actually manually flag important sections easily to help me mark key points. There's also this impressive translation feature that feels like holding a Star Trek communicator with support for more than 100 languages. And it's so cool that you can hear the translation from the earbuds while seeing it displayed on the screen of the case. And then that also plays the translation for the other person to hear through the speaker on the case. And what I respect from Soundcore is they know you might have a favorite wireless earbud already, but they are so confident in the Liberty 5 Pro series, they literally want me to tell you that you can try them before you pay for them. Like, you can wear them on your commute, your weekly work Zoom call, even wear them to your sweaty gym session, and for 30 days, if you don't like them, just return them. So try the Soundcore Liberty 5 Pros by clicking the link in the description, and thank you to Soundcore for sponsoring this video. Now let me get to the only thing that switching to the iPhone Air does better than any of the other iPhones you can buy, because the only thing it really does better is the form factor. The phone feels like the natural successor to the design of the iPhone 6, maybe what the iPhone 10 would have looked like if Apple originally wasn't scared by chasing thinner designs after the iPhone 6 Bendgate controversy. Every time I pick up the iPhone Air, I am still amazed by how thin and light it feels, and while the colors are boring, the polished titanium frame looks very premium and kind of understated at the same time. If there wasn't an Apple logo on the back, which you can kind of barely see at this point, I think most people wouldn't recognize this as an iPhone. In fact, most of the people I ran into while using the iPhone Air have told me that they have never seen the Air being used out in the real world before. But yes, the thin design is really the only marker that makes the iPhone Air better. Everything else about the Air is about accepting its limits for that thinness. Now, these limits aren't in software or even in performance or even in a critical area like the display. No, the limits are in other areas. Now, there's a few of them. Specifically, the speaker. The iPhone Air only has one speaker, and it's located at the top of the earpiece, and it just has a lower volume, it's more tinny, and has less bass than the other iPhone 17 speakers. Basically, it doesn't sound as good. But I actually realize this is kind of a good thing if you want to use your phone less. Ask anyone that makes YouTube videos what the most important thing to get right about your videos, and it isn't being ridiculously good looking, it's about getting the audio right. Because audiences will watch a pixelated 240p video with bad lighting, or they may even stare at this unsightly face for 20 minutes. But
if my audio quality takes a dive
or gets distorted or muffled, see how annoying that was? They are more likely to click off the video. The iPhone Air speaker has a similar effect because one of my most time-consuming activities on my phone is scrolling through short-form content like YouTube Shorts or TikTok. Usually, this is not an intentional activity. It just kind of happens, which means I'm probably listening to this content through the phone's built-in speakers because I really didn't plan to do like a short-form video session. I just happened to come across it somehow every day for the past year. So if that doesn't sound as good, well, I find myself less likely to watch as long as I usually do. Still, I'm not a Luddite. My goal isn't to stop using my phone completely. It's just to use it less and be more intentional about its use. And listen to music or a podcast or watch a video and actually enjoy the audio. That's kind of where the sponsored segment comes in, right? Like when I want to actually do something, I pop in some earbuds. But my biggest limitation with the Air is primarily with its battery life. The iPhone Air has a much smaller battery than any of the other iPhone 17 models. However, to me, This was a feature, not a bug. Well, it's not really a bug, but I guess, it's seen as a bad feature. So I'm twisting it. I'm saying maybe it's a good feature. Over the years, smartphone batteries, just like smartphones, have only gotten bigger and better. I think it's funny to compare the iPhone 17 Pro Max with its 39 hours of video playback to the original iPhone, which could only last 8 hours. Even Apple's first large-size iPhone, the iPhone 6 Plus, was only rated for 14 hours of video playback. In that light, the iPhone Air's battery still outclasses those iPhones, but still sets the battery clock back quite a bit, probably by about 4 to 5 years of iPhone generations. Actually, looking at the data, as phone batteries have gotten better, screen time has increased. So longer phone battery life correlates directly to the increase in prolonged smartphone usage. So while, yes, there's nothing physically stopping me from using the iPhone Air the same way I would use my iPhone 17 Pro, every minute I doom scroll on the Air, every moment I watch a TikTok or listen to a podcast in the background is an increased battery tax that could mean the difference between getting a full day of battery life or only making it halfway through the day before having to recharge. In fact, just cutting out my usual hours of social media browsing while still mostly using my phone for other activities like browsing the web, checking emails, messaging my friends and family, and doing the stuff I normally do on my phone would normally lead me to getting about a full day of use out of my iPhone's battery with battery percentage to spare. At the same time, while I cut down on my social media use, I also reduce what I find to be one of the most battery draining features on any iPhone model. This thing right here, the camera, which also fits the iPhone Air's philosophy, right? Because the biggest limit for most people when they buy this phone is the most apparent one. It only has one camera lens. Now, this single camera lens still takes great photos, so it's not like I'm being forced to use something that can't take a decent picture. But again, it's all about being intentional. On my 17 Pro, I would constantly take photo after photo of the same subject. This would be multiple shots, one maybe using the main lens, maybe switching over to the Pro RAW mode to get a higher resolution photo with more data where I could edit it later, as well as shots from different focal points, like maybe an ultra-wide shot or a zoomed-up shot using the dedicated telephoto lens. And don't get me wrong, it is great to have those extra capabilities. If I'm being honest with myself, this is one area where using the Air where, yes, if there were 3 camera lenses on here, I would prefer that. I would like to have additional camera lenses or even additional camera modes. But this limitation does force me to be more present, because even if we disregard the battery life tax of taking those photos, the limitation of one lens just means that there's less situations in where I could take a good photo. There's less times where I'm likely to take out my iPhone Air to take a photo. And that's just what I like about the experience of using the iPhone Air. It is the most simplest, most minimalist phone experience that Apple has right now. It feels kind of like going back in time a bit, almost like going back to the iPhone's roots. This simplicity and intentionality of me using my phone, not my phone using me, has led to screen time decreases of about 30% in my daily use, which is a big success in my book. Still, I don't want you to take away from this video thinking that switching to an iPhone Air will solve your smartphone addiction, because I switched to the Air with the intent of using my phone less. The Air was more of a symbolic way to do it, a physical reminder that this phone has limits, and if I use it the same way that I use my 17 Pro without packing a battery pack, well, I'll end up stranded somewhere unable to call an Uber, and you may never hear the name Greg's Gadgets again, because he didn't know how to get home. So while this served as a physical reminder to use my phone less, I also took other steps that anyone can do. I limited my notifications, I turned on Do Not Disturb mode more often, and I even changed the default app icons from their brightly colored versions, which are known to trigger dopamine releases and be more addicting and distracting, to the new clear icon versions on iOS 26, helping me eliminate that initial dopamine rush whenever I unlocked my phone. And above all else, it's kind of like willpower or intention, right? I keep saying that word intention. You have to want to use your phone less to actually start taking those steps. You don't have to buy a $1,000 phone to do so. That would be silly. For me, it was an interesting experiment, one that I think I'll continue to do for now. I like using the iPhone Air. I think it's a good phone, but I wouldn't also recommend the iPhone Air to most people, because at the end of the day, having a phone with a thinner design is nice, but the iPhone 17, that base model, it's just too good of a value for me to recommend as a reviewer to spend $200 extra on a phone that has less features. But at the same time, I guess it doesn't mean you should totally ignore the Air. Like, if you really want this phone experience, and if you want a phone that truly does feel different and has like a pretty futuristic design and don't mind the compromises or the price, it is kind of cool to carry around an iPhone that is this thin. And it is kind of cool to use an iPhone most people aren't using. Consumerism. I guess that's a way to look at it too.